If you had a post-Einsteinian physics project, you would want three subspecialties for sure. That would be differential geometry, which is the basis for originally general relativity. In 1976, 75, two guys named C.N. Yang and Jim Simons, who Jim Simons becomes the world's greatest hedge fund manager, figure out that quantum field theory is also based on geometry, but it's a different version of differential geometry. So that's one specialty that you would want. Second specialty that you would want would be particle theory or high energy physics, however you want to say it. The third specialty you'd want is general relativity. So if you wanted to detect whether we had a secret Manhattan Project, but it wasn't identifiable by a building because we didn't announce its existence, you'd say, is there anything that eats those three specialties? But the more spectacular place would be Setauket, Long Island. The State University of New York at Stony Brook has an astounding collection of monster minds. And it's not highly regarded as a university. I mean, it's strong, but you would have no idea how strong this place is. It's got multiple Fields medalists. It's got an institute called the Center for Geometry, Simon Center for Geometry and Physics. C.N. Yang, who's arguably the greatest living theoretical physicist, is at this university. He's 101 years old, so he's pretty much on his way out, but this is where he's called home. And it's not advertised as the powerhouse that it is. The world's greatest mathematics and physics department is Renaissance Technologies. And I said, what? Didn't make any sense to me. It's great people, but it's a hedge fund. Okay, so you've got this weird thing where you've got three basic institutions that are very closely intertwined. You've got Brookhaven National Laboratory. You've got State University of New York at Stony Brook, a mid-level university with an out-of-this-world math and physics program. And you've got a hedge fund that makes more money than anybody can possibly imagine. If you know who Brian Keating is, he's a professor at UCSD. He's an experimentalist. Jim is basically his uncle. And he calls me out to Santa Barbara. And Jim is having dinner at his brother's house. And what you guys don't know about Jim Simons is that with a guy named S.S. Chern, he came up with something called the Chern-Simons function, or Chern-Simons functional, where if you differentiate this thing the way you differentiate the Einstein-Hilbert functional, you get an equation that looks very similar to the Einstein field equation for gravity, only it looks a lot more like particle theory. So I told Jim, I said, I don't know if you know this or you don't know this, but I think you're sitting on top of a piece of the puzzle that supersedes general relativity. And on the spot, he asked me whether I wanted to come out to the State University of New York at Stony Brook for a year to work on this. Jim Simons is potentially, beyond brilliant, but also has a claim on a part of what I believe is going to supersede general relativity by imitating the Einstein-Hilbert action from which the Einstein field equations are derived. This thing generates something which you would call the Chern-Simons equation. Ed Witten gets the Fields Medal for quantizing this thing that looks like gravity.